Hi everyone! Welcome back to Golden Sphere Realty, a channel devoted to providing you with meaningful and insightful realty content. Now, it's been a while since we've done an official house tour, but today we are located in Ayala, Alabang village, and I am about to take you into this beautiful, contemporary Filipino home suited to your tropical needs. So let's get started. Now, before entering the house, I do want to give a bit of context on the location of where we're at. This is actually the highest part of the street, and it has great proximity to a lot of important landmarks in Ayala, Alabang village. So a 5 or 3 minute drive away is just the Cuenca Park, which has restaurants and Starbucks. It's also really near the Village Country Club, the local church, and 3 schools, Zobel, Montessori, and Woodrose, as well as another gate that leads and exits the village, Champaka Gate. So let's get into the first level. Hi, so welcome into the first level of the 3-story estate. Where I'm standing at right now is the main entrance and has a big functional benefit to the house. So actually, this void or hallway provides a passive cooling system for the home, meaning that the natural airways actually travel upwards the screen and distribute throughout the second level. So this minimizes the need for any heavy-duty mechanical system that other homeowners may require for their house, and is perfect for the tropical climate that we have here in the Philippines. So this is the view of the first level of the house. So here we are in the exterior lounge area. And one thing I want to point out is how in this plaza, it actually spans all the way from the main entrance to the main living area, dining area, kitchen, and this exterior lounge area. So the main features you'll see is this pool, there's a jacuzzi, there's a lot of great functional space for any rest or lounge areas that you want to install, and anything else that may be suited to your personal needs. What's also great about this space in general is the natural terrain that creates this natural barrier that divides this house from any property surrounding it. Now, the house definitely gives off this ethereal tropical sense. And by saying that, the designers of the home actually built it according to the natural terrain that previously existed in this estate. And one big theme that inspired the entire makeup of this house is visual continuity. So this desire to create a seamless blend from the interiors and exteriors of the home. A great example of that is in this exterior lounge area. Half of it is shaded and half of it is not. So there's always this option of stepping in and out of the home, but also it does create this visibility that everything works in uniform with each other, and there's not really a distinctive separation in any part of the house. So let's get into the main living area. Now, the orientation of this first level of the house is pretty straightforward. I'm standing over in the display kitchen area, which gives a great view of this beautiful white countertop that gives a lot of space and function to work with. There's obviously a sink, an inbuilt oven, and microwave. And one thing I want to emphasize at this point of the tour is that in every corner and part of each of the house, there's always a glass window or a glass panel that gives maximum visibility to the outside. And that's another thing that reinforces the visual continuity theme that the designers really implemented into the structure of this home. The opposite ends of the entrance into the main living area is another glass sliding door that leads you into this extension of the plaza. And that's where a lot of the behind the scenes of the house goes. So where the laundry area lies. There's also what the homeowners converted into a home gym. But it can also serve as somewhat a balcony because it sits right above the garage area and parking area, and also gives you direct access to the outside of the house. Parallel to the display kitchen is what the previous homeowners converted into the main living area and dining area, and that seems perfectly together without having a physical boundary to separate it. I think one of the most intimidating things about having a contemporary styled home is that it truly serves as a blank canvas. So a lot of the character and personality of the house comes actually from the furniture. You'll notice that the previous homeowner saturated the walls with great colorful art. And that actually gives a different vantage point when appreciating a space like this, because from a design perspective, it's not always so easy to tackle such a blank canvas, especially having no physical barrier to really create this visual balance to the eye of where do I place this or where do I place that? So yeah, and you'll notice that the windows in this part of the house are less visible just to give a little bit more privacy and comfort to the homeowners. And the way that they positioned it, I think is perfect, seeing as though the glass panels lead you directly into the pool area, but the closed area of this part of the house is specifically devoted to comfort and privacy and spending time with the family. So I just entered through another side passage in the main living area, and I did that to reinforce how there's so many different points of entry into the actual house itself. Another way that greatly blends together the exteriors and interiors of the space. Now, where I'm standing at right now is actually the forefront of the staircase leading up to the second floor. But behind that is this elevated platform that leads you into this great nook that sits beneath the staircase, and you can transform it into anything you want. Obviously, the previous homeowners have an affinity for music, so they place their piano and guitars there. But I think it's great as a yoga exercise place, a reading area, or even a place to have your coffee in the morning. Beside it is also a guest bathroom, or the only bathroom in this floor, aside from the one that sits in the cabana outside of the pool. Okay guys, so this is actually, well, how I see the most beautiful part of the house. And I think anyone that comes to see this place in person would say the same. This staircase is actually the spot that attracts the most natural daylight and is also so beautiful at night. It has huge and the biggest glass picture windows throughout the entire house, so it gives the most visibility of the outside. And as I mentioned earlier about privacy issues, there are also big blinds that do cover this wall. So the homeowners will always have the option of not having so much visibility throughout the day, as it definitely does touch on security and sensitivity for the people staying in the house. Now, what's so great about this staircase are these glass paneled railings. As I did mention, this house has a lot of glazing, and that's one of its main characteristics. And this not only looks really, really cool, but also does add a lot to the theme of visual continuity and doesn't make way for any visual eyesores that could intrude on the minimalism of the space. Okay, so we're going to do a brief intermission from the actual tour of the house to give way for a special guest. This is architect Yonni from Hans Design Firm. Architect Yonni is actually responsible for designing this house with his wife. And we are so excited to have you here today. Welcome to Golden Sphere Realty channel. We invited you here today as part of our efforts of wanting to create more meaningful and informative content for the virtual realty community. Mm-hmm. I guess we'll start with our first question. I want to know, so far with the audience and what I've been telling them is a lot about this seamless blend from the interiors and the exteriors. I mean, it's obvious that the orientation of the house maximizes a lot of space and gives a lot of nod to the natural terrain around it. So I want to learn more about visual continuity and what it means to you and your wife, and how you guys approached that and thought about it when designing the entire house.
Okay. First, I would like to say thank you for having me, and to basically explain the house in assistance to Golden Sphere. So to answer your question, we actually call this house the inside-outside house. For the reason that the main idea or the philosophy behind it is basically creating an abode or a house wherein once you enter, you're still outside. We're trying to maintain a very tropical feel to it. So there's like a certain procession that once you enter from the outside, you enter through the plaza, you enter through the main big doors. But once you enter, with the notion that you're actually going inside the house, you're actually going outside, like leading to the pool area. It gives an impression of being a very tropical residence wherein you're maintaining visual continuity from the outside. At the same time, having a feel of the outdoors, even if you're within the confines of the property. So we're actually driven by that. So our practice usually dwells into creating houses that value or respect our tropical context because we're in the Philippines. So regardless if it looks a bit modern, you may call it contemporary, we're still being driven by the principles of being in a tropical setting. So that's how we came about with the notion of creating a house that seamlessly transitions from the inside to the outside.
Yeah, that is exactly the kinds of words I was trying to find earlier, because honestly, when seeing this house in person, it's super different to be able to, especially when I did mention that there's so many points of entry, like you have the big glass sliding doors, there's also parallel to it another set of doors, a side door. There definitely does have that seamless transition from the outside and the inside. And I want to know, I'm kind of curious about the process, like further deeper into the process of designing, like if there were any specific places that you did draw inspiration from in terms of the structural integrity of the house, like pre-existing places, or I don't know, where do you draw your personal inspiration as an artist?
One of the main, for this house specifically, one of the main briefs that we got when we started doing this house was basically they wanted a resort kind of feel for the house. And one of the examples that they gave us is basically some photos of Bali. What's funny about it was prior to doing that, my wife and I were actually about to go to Bali for a vacation. So we went there, immersed ourselves with the architecture, with what Bali is, and then when we came back here, actually, we were like so inspired. But we were being driven by the direction that the house should also fit the needs of a modern Filipino or a modern Filipino family. Actually, we can't do like the typical Bali resort villas here because this is like this should be a residence. But we took the principles of having the notion of a resort, of getting inside within the confines of the property, but you're surrounded with nature. That's why we other than the configuration of the spaces now within the house, we actually tried to cover the whole house with lush greenery. If you notice, we even brought like a certain idea of that Bali feel to it by putting the frangipani tree right smack in front of the plaza. So that's one of the reasons. We wanted to highlight it and give it like soften the architecture, because if you see from the outside, it's kind of blocked off. But once you get inside the house, you actually see that how open it is. So to give softness or to the very hard exterior and putting the tropical feel to it, we actually fought to put the frangipani tree in front to give a notion. No, it may look modern, it may look boxy, but it's actually a tropical residence. So those are one of the inspirations for this house.
And when you say tropical residence, what natural environment is pre-existing here?
Actually, we wanted to define what tropical is by taking inspiration from the principles of what makes a tropical house or what tropical living is. Obviously, because of the climate, it's hot here, it's humid. We can't just put like glass everywhere and not be considerate of how to actually use it or where to place it. So that's why we are very particular and strategic in placing where the windows are. We wanted the stair to be covered with light, so we had it covered with glass. We made openings here in the pool. So actually, the pool area acts also as like a cooling factor for the house. If you open the house, once the breeze comes in, if you have like water, the cool breeze, once it touches the water, the aim is to eventually cool the house, by putting the breeze in. So, yeah, those are some of the principles that we follow. Because other than being a tropical residence, our office actually tries to embody and try to define what a new Filipino house can be. So we're taking principles from the bahay kubo or the bahay na bato. If you notice, the architecture looks somewhat, it's being driven by the concept of the bahay na bato. You have like a stony ground floor.
Yes.
And then it gets lighter, with a very straightforward material on the upper floors. So that's why we're trying to create an architecture based on an aesthetic of the bahay na bato, but applying it and putting it in the context that we're currently in the modern times.
Yeah, so, actually, that was, well, I find that really interesting because I think the word tropical, especially when thrown around or tossed around in architecture or design, it's more of just this image.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like, I don't really know much about it. So for me, it's just how I perceive what a tropical home looks like. It's just things that I'm used to seeing online. And sometimes I kind of amass all kinds of tropical homes in terms of from different cultures even.
Yeah, that's correct.
Like it's all just under one umbrella to me. But I think it's really cool how you pointed out that obviously each tropical climate has their own set of circumstances from the other, how there's really intention also with the placement of the glass.
Correct.
That's really nice. And I did want to ask about, when you talked about the inspiration to Philippine culture, about the color palette of the house. So when conceptualizing that, is that also another factor of something that, represents Philippine culture? Or
Actually it is. As we tried as much as we can first to use as much natural materials as we can. So if you notice, we used a lot of wood, again, to give like a certain sense of warmth to the house. You also notice that we use stone or tiles, just again to continue that notion of a heavy base and a lighter top. In terms of color, we actually tried to maintain a very neutral palette. So other than the beigey color of the upper floor, everything here is like basically based on natural color. So what the material is basically that's what their color is. So if you have wood, the color should be wood. We're not gonna put color on a material that's not supposed to have that color. If we're gonna use stone, we're gonna use it as is. So basically, we're trying to maintain a very, refined and controlled aesthetic, but being driven by the principles of what, again, tropical living should be. So how do you experience your tropical setting without being uncomfortable?
Wow.
You get it, something like that.
That actually relates to my next question, because I did want to ask you, I mean, when you design, or specifically to this house, what kind of lifestyle do you think the home that you've built or designed endorses?
Okay, good question. Actually, my wife and I recently had a talk about it. How we want the house to be used, or the kind of lifestyle that we were envisioning when we did this house. Basically, it should have a very relaxed lifestyle, wherein you can like understand that you're in the urban setting. So obviously you're in the metro, but having a house, or a respite from the hustle and bustle, and feeling that you're actually outside. In terms of how the dynamic of using it, it's just basically we're feeling that it could be somewhat pertaining to a modern Filipino family. They've gone around the world and then they went here, and then how they want to experience being in a setting they're in the Philippines, but they have the comforts of home. So we were thinking of flexibility, we're thinking of expansion. So if the family starts like a new like a small family first, this house could actually function as a multi-generational family residence. So if you have like your grandparents, they can actually live here as well. So it's something that we were trying to envision years ahead. To again, because being in the context of the Filipino family, we're in your grandparents, your parents, or sometimes your children all still live at the same house. So we're just putting it in a very contemporary setting we're in. Okay, we're driven by the concept of what the Filipino family is, but basically we're in the modern times, so we have to adapt, but we're addressing those concerns as well.
No, I really think that's so cool what you just said about the multi-generational kind of homes or planning, because it's so accurate. I mean, there's always it's definitely ingrained in our culture to have homes where there's 3 generations
That's
living
correct.
under the same roof.
Yes.
And I don't know why it didn't really come to mind that, that is something that architects and designers have to take into consideration, especially when planning for the Filipino family.
Yeah.
It's a completely different, archetype that we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
there.
that's true.
Yeah, awesome. Actually, it leads me to my last few questions. I wanted to ask what you could say to the audience more about, let's say, privacy. I'm sure that's a big question people may have when looking at a house that has a lot of windows.
Yeah. If you notice when you look around the house, we have it's being punctured by large panes of glass, windows everywhere. Number one is for transparency. Again, to have as much natural light or as much natural daylight and ventilation within the house. But we actually played with the notion of to quote one famous architect from way back, Frank Lloyd Wright. We're actually driven by the notion of prospect and refuge. We're creating a house, especially when you go to the upper floors at the hallway. There's a big pane of glass there that actually allows the users, the owners of the house, to actually have a prospect of what's outside, but having refuge because the windows are placed in a manner that it's high enough, it's pushed back enough, wherein the people from the street don't actually see them. So in essence, you maintain a sense of privacy and security. So when you're inside the house, you get to spend time with your family without actually worrying that are there people looking at us or something like that. And then if you notice, we opened up the house in areas wherein they will not be visible from the street. When you go from the street, you have a big wall there that's really blank. You just have the main door that's actually, if you don't keep it open, you don't have a sense of what's happening inside the house. So we did the house inwards, wherein if the owner comes here, they can spend time with family, with privacy, with comfort, and basically security.
No, and it is true. I mean, when you look if you're standing from the exterior and you're looking into the house, the only real glimpse that you can get inside is the staircase.
The stair, that's correct.
But that's really it. And there's blinds that you can have.
And
we
actually did it because we wanted to highlight the stair.
Which I was saying,
reason,
kanina, is for me my favorite part of the house. One thing that I did talk to architect actually before our interview started was natural framing of different parts of the house. I was telling him that, to me, when you kind of stand in different vantage points, you're able to see the house in kind of photography stills. I mean, it's super beautiful. So for this, in example, it's so well balanced. Yeah. And I was asking him about the intention of, when designing this house, if that was something that you and your wife were like, oh, this is such a nice view of this staircase, and what other parts did you specifically want to highlight in the house aside from that?
Okay, if you notice the hallway at the upper floor where the library is, the shelf, we actually created a big picture window there to maintain visual continuity to the outside. So if you're there, if you want to spend a little time lounge there, you can have a sense of the pool. Thinking again of family. So if, for example, the parents are there, you have your kids swimming in the swimming pool. They have a sense, so at least they can see their children playing around. At the same time, being protected from the notion if they have guests or they want to have a certain privacy. Again, the notion of prospect and refuge. You maintain a certain level of privacy and visual continuity.
But yeah, that actually is somewhat wraps up all the questions that I have. If there's anything else you want to share or let the audience know about the house that we weren't able to cover.
I think we got everything covered. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a really great conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned so much about architecture and design in general, especially for the Filipino client. So yeah, thank you so much, architect, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me too.
I hope you guys enjoyed this segment of the tour. So yeah, stay tuned for the second floor. So welcome to the second story of the house. I'm actually standing at one of the main points of conversation that me and architecture Yonni had earlier, which was this window panel located in the second floor that he said was a place of prospect and refuge. So if you'll notice, just reinforcing what he said earlier, when looking at the house from the outside, you actually don't see a lot of what goes on inside of the house. So entering the junior master bedroom, the biggest feature about this room is the glass picture windows that give the homeowner direct access to the luscious greens that envelope around the entire house. And these lush greens envelope around the entire second floor, and that's something that will become more apparent when you see the hallway. Let's take a peek into the extra room in the house. This is what I said the homeowners converted into a classroom slash office space. So yeah, take a good look. It can really be purposed into anything that you want it to become. But during the pandemic, I guess this is the most functional use of it. So let's go to the hallway. Now, according to architect Yonni, what he was mentioning, the main goal in this hallway was really just to leave it empty to make way for this huge glass picture window that does give a direct view of the lush greens that are enveloping around the house. So it's really nice because during different points in the day, the way in which this spot catches sunlight varies and offers a really nice blend of light. Over here is this really nice library, which was the request of the homeowner. And right beside it is the second bedroom. And this is the junior bedroom of the house. So it doesn't really include as much windows and the view is not as lush as the junior master bedroom, but it does have a more cooling ventilation system. I think from where the air passes, you're able to have access to more natural wind. So that's also a benefit of this room in particular. So entering the master bedroom, this is the most scenic room in the house. It contains several glass picture windows that give direct access to the lush green exteriors. Now, one main feature I do want to point out about the house is its security system. So as you can see, the homeowners really invested in making sure there were 6 to 7 cameras to showcase each room in the house. And going back to the main bedroom, my favorite part about it is that it's very visible and clear how it was designed for 2 people. Something that architect Yonni mentioned earlier is the flow of the room. So as you walk over here, you actually are introduced to a cross or intersection or pathway where the 2 people living in this room kind of meet and have their own individual stations. This is also in the bathroom, where you'll notice 2 different separate stations, 2 sinks, 2 toilets, and also 2 different shower provisions. So you have a bathtub here and a shower head over there. The main thing to point out about the bathroom is not only how beautiful it is, but how it's really obvious after talking to architect Yonni, the kind of inspiration that him and his wife were able to draw from their trip to Bali. I love the tiling, the natural stone tiling, the pebbles over here. It really feels like this oasis, and it does reinforce that sense of a resort. And yeah, I think that's really what they were trying to create over here, and they did it successfully. So now let's go into the parking garage and basement floor of the house.
Now, other amenities of the house include a garage basement, which holds the capacity of 4 cars. It consists of a maid and driver's room, which has a toilet and bath for each. There's also a kitchenette, storage, and staff lounge area. The maid's room slopes into a service stairway leading directly to the dirty kitchen on the first floor. This connects to the living, dining, and main kitchen area. The front driveway of the house also has the capacity to hold up to 4 to 5 cars for parking.
So we've made it back outside to the first plaza, main entrance, and we've come to the end of our tour. Thank you so much to all of you guys for staying and watching another Golden Sphere Realty video. There's more to come and a lot more Realty content being planned ahead for you. So make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Thanks so much. I'm Annika C. See you next time.